Steve, you're on beach time. You're on vacation time. You didn't even know what today was earlier. So how are you
I did
doing?
not. I'm doing wonderful,
Yeah,
but
you
it's
are.
a podcast time, right? Come
Yeah.
on,
Okay.
that's what I'm doing.
That's it's beach time or podcast time in your brain right now. Okay.
Exactly,
All right.
exactly.
You look good. You look. I'm proud of you. You said you've been responsible with sunscreen and bucket hats.
Been trying to not to get burnt
Y-
because getting burnt hurts.
yes, it does.
Not a big fan of
Yeah,
that.
it's 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. Um, 10 out of 10 would recommend this week's podcast though. Which the name of that podcast is called Stuff Summers Says with.
Steve,
Been doing this for 5 years now, bud.
don't tell
Okay.
Mrs. Sampson that. She still doesn't believe it.
Okay. I don't know.
It's like, what are you doing with your time? Oh, I don't know,
Yeah.
hon.
Okay. Um, Steve, we have not one but two wonderful episodes for you this week. Well, for the listeners, you're part of the episodes. Our first episode today is going to be our more traditional one. Freaked out, geeked out a little bit because we had Tamba Hali on the podcast and had a wonderful conversation with him. And then we have we'll get to it later in the week, but a great conversation with Penn State men's hockey's Charlie Serrato joined us for a great conversation. But for the football episode, if you will, today, as we'll call it, listen to our interview with Tamba. We want to talk about Media Day because there's some news things coming out that we want to talk about. You have Old Guy Young Guy as well. This episode will feature Old Guy Young Guy. If you're looking for not Old Guy Young Guy, you can listen to the other episode, but listen to them both because you love us. So
There you go.
okay. That man, of course, is Mr. Tamba Hali. I am honored. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending some time with us. It's great to chat with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Um, Tamba, I want to know, when did you realize that hit was something you were going to be talking about 20 years later?
It never dawned on me that we would be talking about that quarterback sack at the Ohio State game that day, that night, that we'll still be talking about it. I mean, I want to say it still haven't hit me. Still haven't hit me that we're still talking about it, but it was one of those turning points in our Penn State history for Joe Paterno at the time, because we were coming off of two losing seasons, and we just won a big game up there in Northwestern, and now we're playing Ohio State, and they're ranked high, and but yeah, I mean, to get the win, I didn't realize how important it was to just Penn State history, Penn State football history.
How, not to be nerdy, but how often are you asked about that from Penn Staters?
Um, Most of the time we're talking about that play. Um, I thought I had a better game during Wisconsin, but that play kind of really solidified my career at Penn State. But we're always talking about that one.
No, I think that's funny because I do think the other thing that people sometimes forget about is the fact that you were a multi-time All-American. You went on to have a very successful NFL career. What was it about football that you've always loved?
I fell in love with the game when I came to the country, '94. I was a big soccer, big basketball guy. I started learning how to play basketball, but it was a gift. It was just my coach from high school, Dennis Heck and Ed Klemick, um, both just, welcomed me on the freshman team. And after that, I just fell in love with the game. It was like hunting, coming from coming from my kind of background where we're walking, hiding, going into hiding because of war, almost was something natural given to me as a warrior. Like, I just had to keep hustling. And I fell in love with the game. I didn't know much about it. I just knew I had to go get the guy with the ball to became a student of it. I worked at it. It wasn't easy at all. I mean, up there when Joe was there, I was just up there talking with the guys and telling them how much we worked, how much running we did, and they couldn't believe it. And, and it was funny. And I'm like, you guys may beat us based on your talent, but we outworked our teams. And But it's a humbling thing, you know. I just loved it, so I learned it and try to outwork my opponent and fell in love with it. I put my heart in it.
How did that, you said, mentioned you were back up at Penn State a couple weeks ago talking with the team. How does something like that come about, and how connected are you still with the program in terms of talking to people, or even just paying attention to what's happening?
I've been fortunate. I usually went back every off season when Joe was alive, and I always work with the guys. I bought a place up there for the first maybe 3 4 years. I always work with the guys, you know, try to give back as much information that I was receiving, and I went away from it after all the things that happened with the program, and I came back, and Coach Franklin, you know, welcomed me. He gave me his phone number. He said, "I'm welcome anytime to come back." And so I'll just pop up every now and then and try to give back to the guys. And um, Jim Ivler, my agent, he also is a Penn Stater. He's well connected up there, so he's always, you know, urging me to go back and try to give back. So it becomes, I think Alan Zamitis is up there. Some of our guys who went to the league still play up there, Jordan. Um, but yeah, it's natural for me. I love the game. I love to give back to the game. It really served me well, and the people, uh, the fans, they're always anywhere I go. Penn State Chiefs, it's always a welcoming time.
When you were playing at Penn State and for the Chiefs, right? You successful, and we always hear from our outside point, "Hey, focus on the team, ignore the noise, know what's going, focus on us." How did you, or did you at all, pay attention to what was being said about the team or about you in general, like uh, as you were playing, like just out of curiosity, or not at all? Like, were you able to shut stuff out, or did you not?
I did early on in my career, especially at Penn State. You know, we were urged really not to read the papers, and the team did a great job with our reel. So we spent more time watching our stuff on Sunday. After the game, they had a whole show and all the things we did. But no, not too much time in the paper. Or you're in school, you're not really paying too much about what the media is saying. The work is hard now. When I was up there, it was hard. So you didn't have enough time to negotiate, trying to see what people were saying. And I was new to the country. I came in '94. You saying about 8 more years. 8 years later, I'm playing football, so I'm still catching on to what's really happening around me. Um, it's more in the league. I paid a little bit more attention because it's in the league, you have to be a pro. No one is forcing you to be there. No one is telling you you got to work out. Um, I think it was Adam Tetcher. I told him, I said, you know what? It was because of your writing that it kind of changed the way I chose to play the game because you spoke about my career being resurrected. And I felt like I was hurt that entire season. And I didn't think you gave that any credit that, you know, the guy was hurt. You're just pretty much talking as if like, we got to get rid of this guy. So I think that helped me a little bit when I paid attention to the media to change the way I wanted to go about um, playing football professionally.
Thank you.
How do you you mentioned going back and speaking to the team and being around the team now? How do you part some of that wisdom on to guys? And what wisdom do you kind of pass on to younger football players, particularly the ones that you chat with at Penn State?
Well, I usually start with what they're mostly interested in. It is developing their skill first as a player, as a pass rusher, with, defensive players, and then trying to get them to understand how important it is to do the right thing. You know, to try to do all the little things that seems like, you know, it's like that little bug right there. Oh, we gotta make it to study hall, or we gotta, you know, we can't go out, we can't do those things. And the reality is, you think my dad kept me away from it. Joe, they did a great job. He kept me away from it when I was in college. But it does matter because there's nothing really happening outside of football that that helps the player. It really, there's nothing. I mean, a lot of guys are trying to pull you down. A lot of you know, girls as well. You got a lot of girls trying to hang on you. So it's trying to give them that little information that, hey man, you got to do the job now and you got to stick with it. You're not gonna come back. Some guys think they're gonna play forever. And it's like, yo, this would be gone. This was my best. Apart from my marriage with my wife and being at the Chiefs, being at Penn State was the best decision I made. And I used to come back and try to relive it, but then I was aging and the people stayed the same. So, you know, just trying to tell them you got to put everything into it now. There's no coming back and thinking you're going to try or people are going to accept you. There's a sea of guys coming behind you. If you don't get it done, those guys going to need their opportunity and stuff like that. But, mainly football and not too much, not too much wisdom talk.
That's good. No, that's good. I'm curious, when you go back now, particularly compared to, like, we always hear the old adage of the way Joe Paterno worked of hard work and maybe wasn't over the top in certain ways. But then you go back now and you see all the technology that Penn State athletes have access to. You see all of the recovery, like, equipment, workout equipment. What are you jealous of? What are you like, I wish we would have had that back when I was a student?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm jealous. I think the guys are a bit spoiled. They really have it way better than we did as far as everything you just spoke about, from the technology to the marketing to extra money in your pocket and online classes, not having to be there. With Joe being there at that time, we had to make our classes. There wasn't no online class. Like, you had to be on campus. You had to be in the classroom. We're getting checked in. But I won't say I'm jealous. I'm happy with how far the program has come. You know, you wouldn't say we would have bounced back as we did based on all the negative media we got at some point. But with James Franklin and the other coaches that came prior, I forget, O'Brien. Is it O'Brien?
Mm-hmm.
O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with the program in recruiting and keeping the spirit alive. But I'm not jealous at all. It would be hard to make it in their era with social media and, everybody just praising you all the time, and it's almost like he's like, I have to post a picture, I have to be the other person. Um, I'm not jealous at all.
I like that.
Darian started by asking about the sack and the tackle. I'm curious, before that, when was the moment, you were new to the country. When was the moment, if there was a moment, that you knew you belonged at Penn State and you could play at that level?
My freshman year, I always had this competitive edge. I was highly recruited to go around and play anywhere in the country. Miami just won a national championship that year. They recruited me. I took a visit. I went to Southern California. Syracuse, Dwight Freeney was just coming away. They were highly recruiting me, saying, "Hey, man, we need a pass rusher." I just was this guy that wanted to be on the field, and when I got there, I wasn't the biggest either, but I just, something in me just wanted to be around the guys that were doing it. And Larry Johnson Sr., at one point, he redshirted me because um, get the pass rusher name we had at the time. Man, why is it? Why am I going blank? What was the man? I'm forgetting his name, but it was Anthony Adams and then Jimmy Kennedy, and we had two edge rusher, and the edge rusher was said to not. He wasn't going to have a good career, but then the first game, he goes and have two sacks. So I'm like looking at redshirting now, but the backup player for um, Anthony Adams isn't doing well, and now we're given a chance. It's three of us. It's me, Ed Johnson, and Jason Alford to compete to back up the nose tackle. And I go out there in practice, and I just ball. I wasn't the strongest. I just wanted to play. And those other guys wanted to play DN. And that was my natural position, DN, outside linebacker. But I happened to pop in there and play nose tackle for a couple of years, and some of the guys got in trouble, so coach started moving me out, and you know, I wasn't the biggest, but I just worked hard. I wouldn't say there was a light bulb like I could play at Penn State. It was just when I got there, it's a throw up. It's JT, it's Jeremy, the strength conditioning coaches, and the way we worked. If you couldn't keep up, you wasn't gonna make it at Penn State. And I knew I'll get out there and work, and that was my edge.
I'm curious, what's your favorite Joe Paterno story from when you were playing under him?
Well, Joe was going to suspend me 3 games in my senior year, and I wouldn't share this, but I'll share it. I'm in a car during training camp with a girl, and we're gonna go grab something to eat. It's a couple of us, couple guys, and Joe pulls his car in front of the girl's car, gets out of the car. Who's in there? Tamba, is that you? Get out of there. Next day, calls me to his office, and he's gonna send me home for at least the first 3 games. And the captains had to come up to him and say, "But he wasn't breaking any of the laws or the rules, and it was fair to us." And you know, that's a story I don't share, but that's how much he cared because he knew that it, the girl was only going to be trouble. He, he knew that. So, but yeah, Joe cared. He'd invite us to his house, would sit there, would be around his family. And I mean, he always cared. I mean, personally, he had during practice, if I didn't make the play I was supposed to, he would stop the practice, run all the way down and coach, and over time, a guy that old caring about your playing time as well as your well-being, it go hand in hand.
In terms of moving into the league, was there a moment there, or that again? How well did Penn State prepare you for success in terms of not having any doubt about whether you could perform? I mean, great career over 10 years, 5-time Pro Bowler, but did you know when you got there, I'm going to be good at this, or did it take some time?
I'll say Penn State prepared me better than most of the guys that I came into when I came to the league because I had a great coach, Larry Johnson Sr. He's produced over the years a bunch of guys that's gone into the league and had success. I'll say his style of coaching helped me in the league my first couple of years. I wasn't as productive. The lifestyle may have started to catch up to me at first, um, but I knew the basic of playing anywhere on the line. Some guys came, they didn't know what hand to put down. They didn't know how to play the left side or the right side. I knew how to play either side. I was forced to in college, and I think the where my career made a turn was a gentleman named Joe Kim. Joe Kim is a martial artist, and 2 guys named Henner and Hiro. These are both black belts, 4-5. What we call it, black belt 4-5. I don't know. I don't know the terms because I just became a black belt myself. Those guys took on to me and started teaching me how to fight. And Joe was more taekwondo, hand work, and Hidon and Henner, those 2 guys were more sound in just floor grappling and standing up and how to take guys down. And I took on to it, and I was in tremendous shape, and it started to change my career as in a pass rusher. All the techniques I started to learn that, and then tie it in with football. I kind of knew now I could beat guys not just off of my strength, but um, techniques.
Thank you.
When did you pick up a love for music? When did you just pick up the music aspect?
I grew up in church. My upbringing is, you'll say I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. My stepdad, a minister. My mom a minister. So during the war, I used to play the bongos, the djembe in church. Um, and when we got to the country, I also played it at a church named Bethel in Hackensack. And so it was natural. I think what caught me more was when I got here, being in New Jersey, we we had to learn hooked on phonics. And being in the fifth grade, it's humbling. You can't read, you can't write. The kids around you are all smart. And so it was more about rhyming, it's rhyming these little words. And I gravitated to it. Then hearing hip hop, rap, Hot 97, hearing all of those stations. In Jersey, you're hearing all these rappers and they're able to rhyme words and make sense with it. And it seems like it just fits. So I kind of gravitated to that, and the culture started to shape my love for music in that sense. Um, FL Studio, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but FL Studio, when I was in college, we were the first wave for it. Is a digital audio workstation where we create beats and then we rap on it or sing on it. And that was kind of my outlet. I'm more of an introvert, so I'm always inside. I try to stay to myself or at least be away from the crowd. And so I did it, and I fell in love with all the rappers. I was Lil Wayne's fan, Cameron, Jay-Z, all those guys. And as I was aging, it seems like I was in the same place as they were. So I started to inquire about, guys like, oh, I heard Gilly the Kid, he worked with Lil Wayne. I want to go ahead and work with him. And I started working with Gilly, spent about 8 years, produced a couple uh, compilations for him. And I knew I could do it, but I was, I got to make money. I can't spend my time trying to chase money. I was already in the place I could make money. So I focused on football, but I always did it on the side. And I was fortunate to get a sound producer. His name is Mastercraft, from Nigeria, and he came around when Afrobeat started to take its turn in the music scene. And he wasn't aware of my story. I'm Liberian. He's Nigerian, so he made a bunch of music, wrote most of the lyrics for it because again, it's his tongue, and he's asking me to sing it. Did it, and it sounded great, and we we put it out, and it was fun doing it. And after that, I've gravitated to promoting more Liberian artists whom give back in that sense. And I checked myself back into school. I'm in LA Film School right now. Uh, Music production is my major, so just want to be again a student of the game and understand exactly how to go about it.
Well, this is
Cool.
awesome. All right, Tamba, we like to ask every Penn Stater on this podcast before we say goodbye one question. We want to know what's Tamba Hali's go-to creamery ice cream flavor.
Peachy Paterno.
That seemed like an obvious answer, to be fair.
But I do like it though. I mean, I went there. I was there this summer. Every time we went in, it's the Peachy Paterno. If it's not that, we get a little bit of Oreo cookie or something like that. But the Peachy Paterno, hands down.
Awesome. Tamba, where can people find you, your music, and everything else going on?
I have a Twitter, Tamba Hali 91. That's Instagram. I have Tamba Tunes for music, what I'm doing with the Liberian artist. Um, and then if you just want to listen to the kind of music we were doing, um, just type in my name. I don't have a different name. I don't go with a different name. You just type in my name in Apple Music, Spotify Music, any kind of digital um, place where you can play music on YouTube. Yeah, you'll find us there.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamba, very much.
Steve, that was delightful conversation. Like for somebody that is intense, it showed all this passion when he played football and like he's so chill. He was real relaxed. He's sitting outside having a good day. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that. That conversation lived up to expectations. I loved his Joe Paterno story. I thought that was great. I loved just kind of like the wisdom that he how he goes about kind of giving back and make sure that that's important because of his upbringing and the challenges he went through. And I think that's really neat for him. And it's cool to see the power of a sport being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, great. What we didn't even go into his backstory, all of his backstory, right? I mean, Penn State fans sort of know it, but yeah, just measured, calm. It's kind of hard to imagine that guy on the other side of the line. But then the insights of, hey, here's what I did with martial arts to help my career and do those kind of things. So thoughtful, smart. No, really enjoyed. Glad he made time. Thanks to Jim Eidler, Penn State alum, and his agent for offering this the opportunity. And yeah, and I think he had some cool.
Yeah.
We didn't do it with him on the recording, but some insights about the team. How he thinks they're going to be good. And it came back to if they're going to work hard, right? And it's interesting because that's where he started with. Here's the Penn State thing. We worked hard under Joe, so
yeah,
no, I appreciate it.
No.
And the music thing's really cool. Like I didn't know where he had gone. I'm glad that he shared that.
Yeah, I think that was neat, and like that was kind of like when I looked to do some research, I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was doing this. Like this is a neat thing that he's doing. And I don't know. It's cool. It's cool when you see like we only think of some of these guys through the lens of only being athletes, and like we forget that they're human and like have all these other things going on and other interests. And I think it was neat to hear that. So appreciate that. That was awesome. All right. So you wanna chat through media day? We can start with you. You should be happy. You seem happy.
I'm thrilled. They embraced the expectations. That was one of the things I hoped they would do. And I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. Like you can't say, oh yeah, no, what was us? It's gonna no. So good on them for saying this is where we got ourselves to. This is what we should have. We know the expectations, and that's. I mean, I don't know that they knew the expectations from day one. I mean, when we first became the coaching staff, I mean, I would still call BS on that in some ways, but now they've reached it. They know what it is, and I think that's good for them. I think that's a good thing. They're not shying away from what people expect them to do.
I think I would have been disappointed had there been any other outcome. Like right. It would be a lie almost to pull that. And I think not that I don't think James Franklin would, but I just think he's sometimes not always upfront about those expectation type things, and that's been kind of frustrating. And then he's also in some ways made his own bed in terms of the expectations things. To your point, like I don't think people were like, James Franklin has to win us a national championship back in 2013, right? Like I agree with you on that. Like, but I think people wanted Penn State to be relevant and good again. After to Tamba's conversation, after the whole scandal and everything. I think James Franklin in a lot of ways has built the expectation, both in what he said, but also what he's done in terms of being a very good football coach, right? But I think, yeah, I appreciated the fact that there was a business likeness of approaching that and going about that. And that stood out to me as well. I think I don't know. It would feel silly to say it any other way. I guess would be the best way to put that.
Yeah. What stood out to you?
I think the big thing that stood out to me, of course, is the other media news story of the week, which was the whole, well, we're in Las Vegas. Okay, so I think it's important to, if you go, make sure you go watch the whole, it's the 45-minute press conference that James Franklin does on the side away from what was showed on BTN. He is unprompted, unasked about the Vegas thing. He brought up the Vegas thing on his own, and boy, did he seem pissed off about the Vegas thing. And I have to agree with him. I think this was something we talked about, like, before Big Ten Media Days. Like, what is the Big Ten going to do to make it feel special? And just between the tweets I was seeing, the lack of tweets and posts I was seeing, the just kind of the lack of vibe coming out of Big Ten Media Day, I agree with him. And I think he makes a perfectly clear and good argument for why they should do it. And we'll get to like the other conference thing here in a second. But I guess it kind of blends into that, right? Like the point he was trying to make with the SEC comment or the other conference, which got completely blown out of proportion for no real reason, in my opinion. I think what he's trying to say there is like, the SEC has a brand, and they lean into that brand. Right or wrong, they lean into that brand. The Big Ten, I don't know what the Big Ten's brand is right now. It's a bunch of all these little different brands. It's Oregon, it's USC, it's Penn State, it's Ohio State, it's Michigan, and then there's some other schools in the middle. Like, I don't know, and this kind of goes back. I was thinking about like the conversation we had last week. Like, who is the Big Ten's voice the way Paul Feinbaum is the SEC voice? And I think that was the point that James Franklin was making, was it was disappointing to see the Big Ten not take advantage of its brand. Do it in Chicago. Do it in Indianapolis. Like these cities that are rooted in Midwestern feels, even if you've got these 4 other teams out here and you've got Rutgers and Maryland that still are not fitting in well. And I thought it was silly for how that comment got blown out of proportion, because in some ways he was complimenting the SEC. He was kind of taking swings at his own conference there and expressing his disappointment with leadership.
Yeah, I think he was taking swings internally more. It felt a little bit of Pat Kraft from the Pat Kraft playbook of don't make us open on the road in conference play. Like it felt a little bit like that in some ways, like we're hurting ourselves. I do think the linguistic red rhetorical voodoo of just not saying the Southeastern Conference is silly. Just like, we never called it. I came here from Vanderbilt, like my previous institution. Just say the SEC. Like there's only 2 conferences in college football that matter. It's the SEC and the Big Ten. Go ahead and say the SEC is doing this better than us right now, and we needed to be better at it, because that's true. They're just not. And I think the swipes that are happening, like when the SEC folks talk about, well, we expanded our conference, but we expanded to places that were already contiguous states. Like it's not like we went out and changed our footprint, right? There's all this back and forth between them. It's just kind of subtle, sort of fun, and in the way politics used to be fun, where you'd say, well, my friend, the senator from Idaho, right? Like, and then you diss them. Like, there's a piece of that that's appealing, but no, Franklin was a swipe at the Big Ten, and he's not wrong. Like, you got to make your big stuff, right? And I think, gosh, I don't even want to. If you want to be like big Penn State conspiracy story stuff, like they didn't schedule Vegas for the year Penn State's going to be the champion, or be the preseason leader potentially, but it is. I'm sure someone who's a big Penn State fan can say, "Oh yeah, see the year that Penn State's going to be good. They're doing less with whatever, right?" There's got to be somebody out there thinking that, right? Like there just is, right? And they're wrong, but
I hadn't even thought about that. And then
but
the thought that crossed my mind, and now it's Bill and Linda in York, age 72, 74 of York, Pennsylvania, that are exactly.
Well, we're going to talk about them later, going up those benches when the time comes, because I can't imagine. But no, Franklin was correct. The Big Ten is, and maybe it doesn't mean as much to some people in the Big Ten.
Right? I think there's some truth to that, right? Like for Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, maybe depending on the year. Oregon, USC, but then like in a weird way, it's like we still haven't fully embraced like those are the football schools, right? And like outside of like maybe like until recently Kentucky, Vandy, like every single SEC school to a degree, some shape or fashion, football. It's a football conference, even when its basketball teams are very good. In the Big Ten, you kind of have that void of like Illinois, Indiana, Purdue, like those are basketball schools that I don't think football means as much. And I mean, you can see that in the way their stadiums are designed, or the amount of their fans that show up. And I think that's, but I also understand what James Franklin is saying is like Tony Petitti's out there like talking this big game, and I think some of the things he's saying I agree with, right? But then when it comes time to show off, we're not doing that. And I think that's where it falls short. Well,
and I think they've set up, the Big Ten has set themselves up through Petitti through either big success or a big swing and miss, depending on how the playoff fortunes play out, right? If you get the format that the Big Ten wants, okay, see, we're in it, we're invested, it's our idea, this is how it's going to work. If for some reason they don't come to an agreement and you stay at 12 and it's whatever and they can't come to an agreement, mean, they're going to get to 16 at some point, but it's going to have to figure out who's weighs who. And if the Big Ten blinks in that process, then that's a little bit less for them in terms of perception and whatever else. You know, and I guess I can make an argument for any of the formats at this point. But yeah, I think it just does. It doesn't feel like, you know, the NFL used to say it's about protecting the shield, right? That became kind of a cliche. I'm not sure that the Big Ten knows that everybody's doing it all together and with the same level of passion, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, I think no, and I think that's a good analogy because of the whole "it just means more" thing, right? Like that is the SEC's brand. What is the Big Ten's brand? Big stage, big light. Like I only know that because I'm a weirdo, and I know that. But like,
well, right, and
casual college sports fans know what the SEC brand is. They don't know what the Big Ten brand is.
Right, and for me, I'm just all the time with my staff and the people. You know, more isn't better. Better is better. Bigger isn't better. Better is better. Right? So how do you get to better and not just bigger?
No, I thought that was I really thought it was interesting that he kind of unprompted brought that up, and I think he's right. I think I do agree with him and collectively the mindset out there that like it is weird that we are judging people on these different roles between 8 conference games and 9 conference games. That kind of seemed to be a little bit of the story, but I just didn't understand why SEC people were fired up about that when he was actually taking a backhanded shot at his own conference, right? Like,
no, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is him becoming the other. I mean, I think he was stepping into a role as more of a voice for the conference, or trying to in some ways. But I didn't take it as a swipe at the SEC. I mean, the 8 and 9 probably is right, and I think Penn State unfortunately is an easy target when you get into that discussion. You say, oh, 8 and 9, well, okay, well then schedule somebody at non-conference, right? And that's what many people did to clap back last week too. So,
no, I think that's good. Anything else media days? I have another point I want to hit on.
No, let's hear it. Go ahead.
Well, we didn't talk about Roar Plus. I wanted to briefly talk about Roar Plus. It launched this week or last week. I was optimistically anxious, I guess we'll say, about this moving forward. Like, I think this can work. Like, the conversation with James Franklin that was on there was very good. It was a relaxed James Franklin. It was the James Franklin that we get more so. I think the Big Ten Media Days is a good example of this. There was the 15-minute press conference he did on BTN, and it was very, I don't want to say professional, like he's professional all the time, but it was less cavalier than the 45-minute press conference, right? And we got more of the 45-minute press conference or the article that Wogo just did, and we'll talk about, I want to shout out John Sauber article as well, like that more relaxed James Franklin. And as long as we can continue to get that, great. And I thought the Guy Gadowski conversation was excellent. And I texted Brian Tripp. I said, I want a podcast of Guy Gadowski. Like, I didn't realize I wanted a podcast of Guy Gadowski, but that's what I want from this. And the conversation between Tripp and Mark Pavlik, it was great because that is, well, first off, he's been on our podcast, but that is the conversation that you and I have had with Pav how many thousands of times it feels like. And I think that's good. I think the content that was there is good. I think the misses are within the platform, like the tech that runs it. And I know our website isn't perfect by any means, but it was like there was like lime green, and I know that's like subtle, but just make it blue, make it white, make it a Penn State color. I'm really anxious about the chat function. I don't think that is going to play out the way we were sold that. I think the archives thing was always going to be an uphill battle, and that was a little bit of a miss as well. Because I could very quickly go find the 82 Nebraska game, full game, and they only had an hour of it there.
Do you want to hear from those coaches quarterly more often than that? Like, because those feel like people that have to be bought in, kind of like captive participants. Not that's bad, but like it's easier to get the coach and the athlete, right? So if you got them repeatedly, would that be too often, or how often is too often for those? And if the chat connection becomes just the connectivity to student athletes, and that's what people want, is that a bad thing?
Well, so at the price point, it's important. At the price point that I'm in, I don't think it's with student athletes or coaches. I think it's only Penn Staters, like just
Okay.
Penn Staters at large. And like Brian Tripp will get in there and LeVar will get in there like from verified accounts, right? And they'll say something. But I think back to your first question, like particularly James Franklin, I think in part because of James Franklin's salary point, right? Like I want to hear from James Franklin because he's a public figure at the salary point that he's at, but he's got like 12 weekends a year that massively swing on a lot of people's moods in the state, for lack of a better way of saying that. I think that's important to hear from him on that. I think it's important to get authenticity from him from that, and I think that would be good. I think Pav, I love Pav. I think once a quarter is good for Pav, right? Like, and that's enough. But then it's like what happens in the middle, in between there,
Right, that's what I'm asking.
is what is going to be interesting, right? Like the student athlete videos, and this is no discredit to anybody producing that content. They have a ceiling, right? Like most of the student athletes, they don't necessarily have like that much of a personality, or know how to show off that personality in a relaxed manner. I mean that's hard to do. And then the like other aspect, there's a written word aspect of it. We'll see how that goes. Like we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I think that is some of that just comes from like skill, and I don't know that like a couple interns or a couple of like PR type majors are going to give us that insightfulness that we're getting elsewhere from other actual beat reporters.
That's fair. I mean, I think the exclusivity is a big piece of it, right? And how much they withhold or control and don't allow the media to have or not have, right? So I think that allows reasonable expectations for it to be good in a lot of ways, whether it'll play out that way or not. And then in terms of the exclusivity, going back to like the John Sauber thing and other things you talked about wanting to give some love to, like if those things are popping up there, do I need to pay for it someplace else? Somebody may weigh that in part of their decision. But
yeah, and I don't, and that's the one thing is like I don't think they picked a bad time to launch this, right? Like we're about to be at the start of the school year, or the sports school year, if you will. But I do right now, as it sits here, and James Franklin can be relaxed and have that relaxed conversation with LeVar that he has. And yes, he could do that. Can he do that on September 22nd? Like coming through a bye weekend, going into a game against Oregon? I don't know. And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Because then I think it is worth it. And I don't know. I don't think it's a this or that for me. Like I think it's just like an accessory or another sub.
Right. That makes sense. And I think they have enough stuff to probably make it worth another subscription. There might be something else you don't do, whether it's Happy Valley United or something else. So.
Okay. Wanted to give a shout out to John Sauber, former podcast guest. Also, more importantly, writer for the CDT, Penn State beat writer. Wrote probably, I would argue, this one of the top two James Franklin features that I've ever read. It was, and I accidentally closed the tab, so I forget the actual headline, but it was basically, it was called Understanding James Franklin, and really talked about like his upbringing and got James Franklin to open up about some stuff that we have not seen before. That was kind of like, wow, like breathtaking in a lot of ways. It was a very well written piece, and it was also just a credit to James Franklin for sharing that, I guess, because I thought that was it was great. The other one I would put on there would be Ben Jones's. I did pull that one up. Taking a walk, the walk with James Franklin, which is a feature about how they walked around town. I thought that was really good. Make sure you go read that. I know Steve said you hadn't read that yet, but it's on the list. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool.
Okay, old guy, young guy.
So I saw Paz this weekend. Mm-hmm. Friday before we left town, we saw Paul Posluszny at the ball game, bobblehead night. Lots of people in line from before the first pitch until after the seventh inning stretch, waiting to get an autograph from Paz. And just reminded me that we had a dog that, no longer with us, but he made 15 good years before cancer took him, that we named after Paz. Like that was the name we could agree on, and it was named after Paul Posluszny. And I don't know, that's just a crazy fan thing. That's not like an age thing. It's like in terms of fans for animal names, like that's just
normal.
Okay, just checking.
No.
So then I got thinking, okay, well, but Darian doesn't have any Penn State names, so I'm curious. Marty and Bolt were what?
So Marty is Marty McFly. That is his full.
Okay, that's what
God-given name, and that is because one of Anna's favorite movies is
okay, good.
Back to the Future. Bolt is a little bit of a play on two things. We always like the name Bo for a dog, so we call him Bo for short. Bolt, as in a lightning bolt, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and
okay. So we do have a sports.
So there is a sports name there. And those are the first pets in my adulthood I named. Of course, the cats, my mom's cats, sadly both passed on now. They were Gretzky and Lemieux.
Right. Okay.
So the mostly sports names. Because when Anna and I started living together, she had Baby, who was a Chihuahua. He was great. And then there was also Princess Fluffy, which she just named because it was a fluffy cat. Mm-hmm. Buddy, we kept the name Buddy because we were his fourth set of owners, and we're like, dude, you've been through enough. We're not going to change your name. So yeah, I think that's how we've gotten to most. What about Guinness? Was various reasons to Guinness.
Right? Gets credit because was because we were in Ireland when we confirmed the adoption, and I'm sure Danny would take credit for him just because we talked about Jameson, but the cat's name was Jasmine. And we thought Jasmine and Jameson would be good, and she's like, well, Jameson's a dumb name. You should name him Guinness. So I think, full disclosure, we probably got to give Danny credit for that. But
I'm so sorry.
Since she doesn't listen to the podcast, he doesn't know.
That's fine. What was I going to say? How does, you've done this with humans as well, but how has naming process negotiations gone in the Samsel family? Like is there give and take? Because there is a little bit of a story on it.
Humans we were pretty straightforward. I think Danny was going to be it. Maybe Josh would have been if Sam was a boy. Susan wanted girl names that could be shortened to boy nicknames just because she wanted tomboys. So we could have Danielle, which was Danny, Samantha, which was Sam. So that was an easy selling point for those two. So yeah, that was that. There wasn't. We were pretty much on the same page. That there wasn't a lot of negotiation.
So Susan came up with the names. That's what I'm hearing. Like you
I think we were together on Danielle because I think we were both. That was a name that was both on both of our lists.
Okay.
And probably Samantha too. Once we got there afterward, we were probably both was names on both of our short lists.
Okay. For very similar for the dogs, it was a negotiation though, because we wanted to name Marty was almost going to be named Bolt, if this makes sense, but I don't know, he just seemed more of like a Marty, which that's a whole other story because he fooled us because he came home from the animal shelter high because he had just gotten his neutering surgery done, and we're like, oh, he's so chill, he's a Marty, he's not a Bolt. And I was like, well, okay, that's fine. Like Anna came up with that name, and I was like, but I want the next one, and it's most likely going to be named Bolt. And so that is
no, it's good. No, negotiation's good. We were both on the same page. There wasn't like much give and take there. Like, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's this week's first podcast. We have a second podcast. We've recorded the interview. We just got to record the intro and outro. That's a little sneak behind the curtain.
Look at
there.
You pulling back the curtain. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, gosh. In the meantime, you check that interview out later this week. Appreciate Tamba for joining us today. That was a great conversation. I really appreciated that. Website, it's called Stuff Summer Says with Steve. I don't think we're getting much from Steve because he's on vacation time this week, but he seems nice and relaxed. We'll see. Maybe
nothing's ticked me off yet, so we'll see.
Maybe Bug will.
I'll get back. I'll get grumpy.
Okay. And then we've got 5 stars, thumbs up. Please be sure to do that. Help us try to eventually get to 200 subscribers before the year or before the football season starts. We've got emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at StuffSummerSays.com.
Perfect. You can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says. You can find Steve
At Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.